And welcome back to my channel, Health No Filter. My name's Tristan Lowe, professional personal trainer based in Lincoln, UK. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see in the thumbnail or the video here, okay, I'm holding a packet, a sealed packet with Mandarin writing on it. It's not Cantonese, it's Mandarin, and the reason being, I actually bought this 2 weeks ago whilst traveling in China, and inside is about half a kilo, can't remember, of jasmine tea, of which I've got a liking for now. So I'm going to do a bit more research into jasmine tea in the future, but I've got a liking for it. So I bought some. I might give it to a friend, colleague or family member as a gift, but if not, it's all mine. All right. Well, I've had a month off the channel, and that's because I've been traveling. And obviously I had my first trip to China, the PRC, the People's Republic of China. I travelled from into Hong Kong, which is not classed as China. Some people think it is. It's not. Officially, legally, it's classed as Hong Kong. And of course, after that, I travelled into China mainland, into the Hunan province and in the mountains, and then finally into Shanghai, which I think most people have heard of. At least Hong Kong at one end and Shanghai at the other, but the Hunan mountains. Now, I went in early October. And so since I've come back, I've been back 9 days now, and of course I've just about got over my jet lag, and also got used to the colder weather again. It's not particularly cold because it's only late October, and if you can't see on the video, I'm still in shorts. But what I'd like to do on this quick episode is just to actually touch on last year I went to Japan and this year China, and I'd like to talk about a couple of points of how I looked after my body whilst travelling across this country. Now, to give you an idea, for those of you who have not looked at, read about or studied China, and I imagine that's most people out there, it is a vast country, approximately 39 times the size of the UK. Now, just try and picture that. It's very hard to actually picture it. 39 times the size of the UK. And at last count, not by me, there's over 1.5 billion people in China, of which I imagine 98 to 99% at least are Chinese themselves, whether they be Cantonese, Mandarin, or from a province we've never heard of. Now, I think in the UK and England, we've got, what, 55 million, maybe 60 million? Imagine 1.5 billion, all right? And with that, the country would need to be, up to 39 times the size of the UK. It's my first trip there. I've been to Asia on a few occasions. I've been to South Korea, I've been to Nepal, and I've been to Japan. But this was my the quad, the fourth one. Not the final, but certainly something for me to look at in the future. Once you get over the visa issues, of which took a bit of time, getting visas sorted out to get into mainland China, I've found that you have to keep your passport on you at all times. It's an incredible country. The people were friendly. The scenery was incredible. The technology is so advanced in China compared to the UK. And that's just what I saw. Their train systems, their transport systems, their buses, trams, cars, road systems, everything. In most parts of Hong Kong that I saw, and nearly all of Shanghai at least. Hunan is a mountainous province, so it's slightly different. But let me talk about what I did to keep myself in good condition. When you're away for a couple of weeks and you have a long haul flight, I did some exercise the day before I went. I did a light cardiovascular, stretching, some mobility, flexibility exercises. Nothing too heavy, didn't do any heavy weightlifting, excuse me, because I didn't want my muscles to be tight and short when you're sat on a 12, 13 hour flight. Upon the flight itself, I think I watched about 3 or 4 films, had 2 or 3 meals, but I walked around. Whilst I was out there in the hotel in Hong Kong, there was a little gym, say twice the size of someone's living room or something like that. I think it had one little rack of weights, one cross trainer, one treadmill, a bench and a mirror. And it served its purpose for me. I did a head to toe workout in there, I think within 2 days of reaching Hong Kong. What I also did was take away my normal supplements that I would take. That's glucosamine, odorless garlic, magnesium, zinc, iron, vitamin C, things like that. Now, the country was hot. First couple of weeks in October, it was still hot. Some days it was in the late 80s and humid as well. Quite oppressive sometimes. You're walking out and within half an hour of walking out, your t-shirt's almost wet on your back. But, I've been in hotter weather than that, but it's humid. All right, so you've got to make sure you get your electrolytes. So each morning, first thing I did after waking up and having my cup of coffee in my hotel room, this is before breakfast, I'd have a pint of water with an electrolyte drink, which I brought with me in little individual sachets, and they're not too expensive. But I would make sure that I'm hydrated when I start my day, especially as I'm in another country. I've done a long haul flight and it's hot and humid. Now, a lightweight head to toe workout on day 2. Now, on day 5, my friends and I, my 2 pals, we travelled on a train into China, about a 6.5 hour train trip during the day on one of these high-speed trains. It was incredible to go on. And as always, I had breakfast before I went, even though I didn't actually want breakfast that day because we had a 7 a.m. train trip. I knew there was no guarantee of getting what I considered to be decent food on the train. As it turned out, on 2 or 3 occasions, the staff on board the train would come down offering cold food or hot food and drinks. So there was food to eat there, which I ate on the train as well. But that's just me. I made sure I ate a traditional English breakfast of porridge, oats, fruits, nuts and seeds and scrambled eggs and toast at the hotel. We're now travelled into the mountains, and the next 4 days were physically demanding. Hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of steps, and I mean up and down in some quite hot heat. I did 2 climbs, an outdoor climb. It was in between rock climbing and bouldering. I had the Chinese guy that was my belay. He was actually feeding my rope to me, so I trusted him. And of course I'm here now, so I got down in one piece. But then later on in that day came a real test. I actually went on one of the Zhangzhili mountain ranges, most famous and nerve-jangling climbs. Essentially, you're carabined in. You have 2 carabiners and a harness and 2 cords, and you're stepping out of a mountain, at quite a height, skyscraper height from the floor onto the outside of a mountain on a steel, hand-built, man-built ledge that goes around the perimeter of the mountain on the outside. And you've only got to go and Google it. Google Hunan Mountain Virata or Via Ferrata Hunan or Zhangzhili walk, and you'll see it. It was hot, humid. There was a warm wind when we came out of the inside of the mountain, out onto the ledge and around. It took about 40 minutes. And in that time, my heart rate was through the roof. My adrenal glands were fired up. I had one of my friends, my other friend didn't do it, but my other friend, he did it in front of me as well. And you've got to be careful because although you've got 2 carabiners on and they're both made from high tensile steel, and the harness that they put us in, a proper climber's harness, and you had a hard hat on as well, they're only so good as to, everything has a shelf life in life, everything, from food to carabiners. And you've got to trust them, but you've equally got to trust, or I had to trust, my own physical strength, flexibility, mobility, and ability to control my nerves and control my adrenal glands and control my heart rate. Because if you can't, your heart rate's going so high, it's going at 3/4 to 4/5 of its maximum. All that blood, is drained away from your legs and your arms. It's going back to your torso to preserve your organs, and you can't feel your hands. But I managed to calm down once I've got over the height and the shock, and trusted my cables and my carabiners and what they'd built. We got around it. So that was a real physical test that day. And of course, you're really hungry after. But what I did the next day was swimming. There was an outdoor pool in the hotel in Hunan, and I went into it. I went into it in the pool twice, walking up and down it just to get some cold water. It wasn't particularly cold, but cold enough on my legs. And then later on in the day, I did about 10 lengths swimming. Nothing drastic, no personal best, just swimming, just to get the heart rate up, get some cold water around my muscles, ligaments and tendons. And so a bit of cardiovascular. And then the following day, I was doing some exercises, body strengthening exercises in my hotel room. I didn't have a gym there. The gym was the mountains. The gym was the swimming pool, but I made my own little body workout. I had my jasmine tea first thing in the morning in my hotel room, and it was a big open span hotel room, like a large studio flat. And don't be fooled, it wasn't some luxury expensive. We booked it about 11 months ago and got it for the price less than what you'd pay for a run-of-the-mill Premier Inn in the UK. But I did some stretches, press-ups, sit-ups, lunges, mobility exercises, and you feel good again. Now, I made sure every day, both in Hong Kong and in Hunan, I got up in the morning, whether I was worse for wear or, like a rabbit jumping around, I had a breakfast. And I would eat as many calories as I could, given the time we had. And that would be anything from 4 to 6 eggs, porridge oats, fruit, nuts, seeds, bananas, apples, sometimes bacon, mushrooms, coffee, couple of pints of water. I would eat as much as I can, because you're out throughout the day, then you're out on your feet all day. Now I might have had something to eat during the day, and my two pals and I, usually we'd stop anywhere between midday and 3 o'clock, something like that, for something to eat. But I'm 6'4" with quite a high metabolism for a man of my age, so I couldn't wait to eat during the day, midday or thereafter, when I'd eaten 7, 8 o'clock the night before. That's too long for me to wait. I need more calories in that. So I made sure I did that, come hell or high water. Now, once we left Hunan, we flew to Shanghai. So this was the third part of my China trip, and I had some really heavy pressure build up in my ears. The flight was only about an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4, quick flight, but it was an awful flight. My ears they couldn't decompress. They were blocked. I couldn't hear clearly. It was giving me almost earache on both sides, more on my left than my right. I went all the things you do: chew, drink water, hold your nose and blow. Nothing worked, okay, and it got quite painful. So I thought, okay, I took a couple of decongestants and they worked. They kind of relaxed me a bit so I could sleep. I took a couple of paracetamol, decongestants, and I didn't have a cold. I had blocked ears. And so what I did when I was in Shanghai, there was a water town about 30, 40 minutes out of the city centre, maybe more. And there was an ear specialist there in a clinical environment. And for those of you that saw me on Facebook, YouTube or LinkedIn, you saw what I had done. I think I paid about equivalent of £30, and the gentleman had the equipment and a TV screen where he inserted his needle-like piece of equipment with a camera on the end of it into my ears, where he scraped out 1,000 years worth of earwax, and you can see it all on the camera as well. And of course, within 15, 20 minutes after him doing both sides, it was uncomfortable. I wouldn't say really painful, I'd say it was uncomfortable. I couldn't keep still sometimes, and he was laughing. And I used Google Translate to sort of, to converse with him, because, my Mandarin was about as good as English, although I'm sure he knew one or two. In matter of fact, he did know one or two words in English, but other than that, he did a good job. And I saw people have it done before me, and one of my friends had it done after. And within an hour or two, my ears were clean again. And I had a flight the day after that, a 2.5 hour flight, maybe more, from Shanghai back to Hong Kong. No problem with my ears. I think they decompressed, they cleared themselves out in a matter of minutes. But what I did when I was in Shanghai as well is I used their gym. The hotel had a fully equipped, full-blown cardiovascular gym and a separate weight training gym, and a very good, I wouldn't say Olympic pool, but it was a very good swimming pool with the lanes built, and it had a spa. And I swam in that pool, and I did 2 weight training workouts head to toe in the gym. So I got my cardiovascular, my non-weight bearing cardiovascular in the pool. They made me wear one of those swimming hats, and of course there was no one else in the pool. So the lifeguard, I didn't have a swimming hat, and I thought, well, there's only me in here, you can't mistake me for anyone else. But I think they do that just to make sure that they can see you clearly should you go under the water and not come back up. I didn't have one, so I had to borrow one off him, and it wasn't a swimming hat, it was like what we call a beanie. It was like a cloth, or a synthetic, beanie, but it did the job. They were really helpful, great people. And the gym, whole workout, head to toe, on 2 occasions with a couple of days in between. So now, finally, after that flight to Hong Kong, we then had the following day a just shy of 15-hour flight from Hong Kong back to the UK. That is a long flight in one go. We left at about 1:30 local time in the afternoon, Hong Kong time. And what was supposed to have been a 14-hour flight coming back non-stop turned out to be 14 hours and 55 minutes. There's only so many films and so many meals you can watch and eat. I had to get up maybe 5 times at least. Every sort of 2 or 3 hours I had to get up and walk around the plane, you know. And my friend, my other pal, flew back to America. He flew via South Korea, but my other pal from Lincoln, he flew with me all the way. He had 3 seats to himself. He stretched his body out across those 3 seats, and I was happy for him to do that because he was driving from Heathrow Airport back up to Lincoln, and that would be an evening flight. But I moved across the aisle and got 2 seats to myself. But you've got to get up. You've got to get that blood flowing around your calves. So I'm constantly doing, you know, calf raises, half calf raises while I'm sat watching movies or having my dinner. I'm constantly moving my neck from left to right, up and down. But before you know it, we were 8-9 hours in, and I thought, right, we're over halfway now. But what I did as well, even though you've got to take regular toilet breaks, what I didn't do is dehydrate myself just to avoid taking a toilet break. I made sure I drank plenty of water on the plane. So before you know it, we're back in the UK and back home. What I learned about the China and the Chinese is they are, from what I saw across 3 different places over a 2-week period, I saw, just like I saw in Japan, I saw a healthy looking, physically healthy looking population. All the women aged from, you know, teenagers, you know, 17, 18, right up until 80s, they're all slim. They're not malnutrition, they're not emaciated, they're slim. I saw hardly, almost next to no obesity in women. I think on one occasion I was in Shanghai and I saw an overweight Chinese woman. And she'd have been overweight by maybe 3 stone, 42 pounds. Nothing compared to the way that people in the UK and the Western world are overweight. But she stood out, you know, because 98% of the Chinese women that I saw, again aged 17, 18, all the way up to 80, were slim, you know. And again, I didn't see, once, on one occasion in Hunan, in the mountains, I saw a Chinese woman with tattoos. I didn't see any other Chinese women covered in tattoos. The neck, the face, the shoulders, the arms, the hands, the legs, like I see in the UK with a lot of women. So there's a cultural difference. Now, with regards to women getting tattooed in China compared to the UK, that's a culture difference or indifference. That's a decision. Which is better? That's up to you. You know, it's in the eye of the beholder, so to speak. What is a fact and unquestionable is they are physically healthier. Not every individual, but across the board. And likewise with the men, from school kids, boys going to school, right up to old men. I think on 2 or 3 occasions, maybe, in each one of those cities, I saw a Chinese guy, whether it be Mandarin or Cantonese, you know, who was noticeably overweight. But we're not talking morbidly obese. We're talking 2, maybe 3 stone overweight. You know, 28, 42 pounds overweight compared to the others. They are courteous, friendly. They're very efficient. They have to be. When you've got so many people in a country, they're very efficient. They're not controlling. Yes, you've got to show ID in some places because you're a tourist in their country. You're a foreigner in their country, in their city. And they can tell that just by the sight. You know, they know you're not Chinese. So, you know, yes, you have to carry forms of ID on you, from passport or a driving license, usually a passport, and they're fine with that. They've got to have some form of, you would call it control, I would call it self-discipline in their country. I found them to be a great country and I'd be happy to go back. The food was good, not everywhere, you get what you pay for, but everywhere you go there was some form of meat dish, loads of vegetables, loads of fish. I didn't see a big boozing culture in Shanghai or Hong Kong. Now that's not to say it didn't exist, but I didn't see it. I had 2 or 3 drinks in the entire trip away, as did my colleagues, my pals. There's no need to go there and get inebriated on alcohol, because then you can't enjoy your next day. But that's it. That's a bit more culture for me. Remember, that's a country 39 times the size of the UK with 1.5 billion people in it and rising. They are so advanced in the places that I went to. There will be places in a country that big, that are almost backward in terms of their technology or their approach. That's because the country's so big, it'd be impossible not to have, towns or boroughs or regions or provinces that are technically wise, technology wise backward, but they could still be advanced in terms of their health and their approach, whether it be cultural, spiritual. I've learned a lot from traveling to the Far East, and I hope to learn some more. So I suppose today isn't a lesson for anyone. It's just an eye-opener for me, and I would say to you, next time you book a holiday, pay your money, get your visa, fill out your forms, and pay for your travel and go to China. It's an incredible country. You'll never forget it. It'll be an experience you'll never forget. Matter of fact, my two colleagues have both said they want to go back as well. So just like Japan, I would say you don't need to keep going to all you can eat, all you can drink, these holidays where people go and they pay their money, and because you've paid your fee, you can eat and drink alcohol ad nauseum from the moment you land to the moment you leave, okay? You can do that in the UK. You can overeat and become inebriated on alcohol in the UK without having to travel, yeah? What you can't do in the UK is see the cultures, the systems, the beliefs, the geography that they've got in China, okay? So you'd have to travel. So my advice to you is to start by drinking some of this jasmine tea, of which I'm going to have some tonight. Okay, my name is Tristan Lowe. I'm a professional personal trainer and sports massage therapist in my 17th year of services. If you'd like to drop me a line, then just contact me on YouTube. The channel's Health No Filter. I'm available on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I think this is episode 107. I can't remember, but we're fast approaching late October, early November. Autumn's definitely upon us, and winter will soon be here. And soon the big man in the red outfit will be coming down the chimney. We'll get to that. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Book your trip to Asia. Bye for now.